Hey there, so today I actually want to take a look at this ACER Swift X that I've had for a few months now. This has been my go-to laptop for day-to-day use since I got it because it was such a fantastic deal. I actually managed to pick this up as an Amazon warehouse deal for around $550, which is a pretty great deal considering that this is a $1,000 laptop normally. Though admittedly at this point it is getting up there in age. And what I want to see is how does the RTX 3050 Ti in this specific system actually hold up in 2024, because I'm going to be taking this with me on a trip. I'm going to be gone for about a week. That means this is going to be the only computer I'm going to have for a while. And I want to see if it can actually hold up in some of the games that I'm currently playing. Admittedly, I don't really play any games on this system on a regular basis at all. I kind of just tend to use my desktop for that. And this system is really mostly for just watching YouTube or being a coomer on Twitch. So it doesn't necessarily live a very difficult life. But there are certain games that I am currently playing through right now that if I'm away for a week, I would like to at least be able to play. So I downloaded all of those games onto this system and we're going to take a look at how it actually performs. Now specs wise, we are looking at an 8-core 16-thread Zen 3 based R7 5825U, a chip that is effectively identical to the Ryzen 7 5800U. That is paired with 16 gigabytes of LPDDR4X RAM, which means unfortunately it's not upgradable RAM. And I do have the stock 512 gigabyte SSD paired with a 1 terabyte SSD. But of course the star of the show here is the RTX 3050 Ti. Do keep in mind though that this is a pretty low TDP limited version of this chip. Let's see how it actually holds up. The main game I really wanted to test out to see how it would run on this system is Helldivers 2, since it's a game that I've been playing a lot recently. Pretty much since launch, it's consistently been one of the games that I've played the most. And here you can see it running with the medium in-game graphics settings, and we are using DLSS at the quality preset. Now, the performance that we're getting here isn't exactly remarkable. If I was actually going to be playing this game myself, I would just drop things down to the lowest graphics settings. But even like this, it was a decent enough result, and overall was still a very playable experience. That being said, I am trying to hit at least an above 60 FPS target, and you will get that with the lowest graphics settings. But even at the medium settings, the performance is pretty good. The one thing became very apparent, and it's the fact that the 60 Hz display on this system isn't exactly the most responsive. Even at 60 Hz, there's pretty noticeable ghosting in the transition of frames, and that tells me that the response time of this display is not exactly incredible. Now, in case I don't have a consistent internet connection, I did want to see if Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord would run on this system, since I have actually been playing through a new campaign on this title. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised that at the high graphics settings and using DLSS at the quality preset, we're able to get a fantastic level of performance, and it'll pretty much be one-to-one to how it is running on my desktop, mostly due to the fact that it's hard to tell a graphical difference between high and very high, but it does impact the performance pretty noticeably. So I really should just consider dropping down to high on my desktop, since this is usually around the FPS that I'm getting on there anyway. Of course, another title that I wanted to see running on here was Monster Hunter Rise. I recently got the brand new expansion for it and decided to start off with a new character. Some friends and I were kind of making our way through this, but we haven't played in a while, so I'm just going to focus in on leveling up this character myself and eventually work my way to the expansion. And I'm happy to see that at the average graphic settings at the full 1080p resolution, we are getting essentially around a 60 FPS average, though the 1% lows are dropping slightly below that. But in general, it's a very nice experience. But if you just enable DLSS at the quality preset, you could pretty much turn the game up to the high graphics settings, and you're still going to get better performance than you would at just average at native resolution. So this to me is the superior way of playing this game. It feels pretty smooth considering the fact that the display is really just the limiting factor here. And overall, considering that it is a single player / co-op game instead of a competitive shooter, the display refresh rate really isn't going to be too much of a problem. Of course, I also did want to take this as an opportunity to potentially play through Lies of P. Unfortunately, there was a weird issue where every time I would load into the game and just try to capture a bit of footage, after a few seconds, the capture would just completely freeze in terms of video, but the game itself was running perfectly fine on the laptop itself. I'm not 100% sure why this game in particular was just having issues with my capture card, but I really couldn't get much of any footage for it, but I was able to play it perfectly fine. The overall performance that we got out of this game was really nice. It was consistently above 60, never even dropping below 70 for those 1% lows, and in general was a very nice gaming experience. And that's at the high graphics settings, though we are using DLSS as well. The last game that I really wanted to take a look at was Warhammer 40k Darktide running on this system. It's a game that I just occasionally will jump into and sometimes play with friends or just by myself with randoms. And here with the lowest in-game graphics settings and DLSS set to the quality preset, we're able to keep a mostly above 60 FPS average, though our 1% lows do dip below 60 on occasion. In general though, this will be a more than adequate enough gaming experience for me, and honestly I am pleasantly surprised with how most of these titles have run so far. These are really the main games that I was just looking forward to being able to run on this system, and honestly it is able to keep up perfectly fine considering the size of the package. Honestly, after testing this system with all of those different titles, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty happy overall, considering the fact that before I had to lug around a gaming laptop that weighed twice as much as this one did. And while it did really great in gaming, it also was pretty loud. This system itself, because it's so small, does make some noise while gaming, but it's not really as deafening as some of those bigger systems are, especially considering that this is a pretty TDP limited CPU and GPU combo. I'm overall happy with the result here, and I'm glad to see that I'm at least going to be able to continue to game while on my trip. And I'm actually looking forward to doing a deeper dive with the 3050 Ti in this system and see what we could actually get running on here. But I'll catch you guys in the next one.